If you have no other prayer to make, let this be the prayer you make. Have your way in me. Have your way in me. Amen. Cinco de Mayo is not Mexican Independence Day. It's a different day. That's September 16th. Cinco de Mayo is its own special holiday. In Mexico, it's actually referred to as El Día de la Batalla de Puebla, which means the Battle of Puebla, the day of the Battle of Puebla. Puebla is a city in the state of Puebla in Mexico, central Mexico. And Mexicans at that point in time in history, this took place in 1862, had been ruled by the Spanish, had been ruled by the British, had been ruled by the Americans, and now the French. And this was a battle that took place with the French army that outnumbered the Mexican army 2-1. And yet, the Mexicans won. They routed the French, and it became a day of independence and freedom from tyranny. In the United States, we were embroiled in the Civil War, and those people in the western states of our country took up that same cry as a freedom of tyranny of slavery. And so it became two countries declaring their freedom, in a sense, from tyranny. It has now become a day that celebrates all things Mexican, all things about the Mexican culture. But we should never forget its roots, that it was born in a human desire for freedom. Freedom from tyranny. Martha Smock is a great unity writer, and she says, freedom is yours, but you must realize it and claim it. There is nothing that can limit or bind you, for in truth, in spirit, you are free, unfettered, and unbound. And I'm not going to ask for a show of hands who actually feels free and unfettered and unbound, because most of us don't some of the time. Most of us don't. We're letting other things tyrannize us. And today I want to talk about how to overcome that, how to live in genuine freedom and genuine power in your life. I say it every morning that we're a church that wants you to stand in your freedom. And so we're going to talk about those things. They're important. The question is, how free are we? Do we even know how free we are? We think, well, I live in America. Yeah, I'm free. We're all free. And There are deeper and more profound chains that bind up our life than anything political. There's 3 levels I want to just quickly talk about, mostly with the bottom one, that we're free, freedom in the universe and the world. And you may think, well, I'm not really free in the universe because, I'm bound by my body and gravity and space travel and blah, blah, blah. And obviously you've never heard of transcendental meditation. People who have been deep into different kinds of meditation have actually left this physical body, and they have traveled throughout the world and throughout space being at one with God. They've known that oneness with God, and God is everywhere, and you can get to know everywhere. Now, if you're not open to it, it's not going to happen, but if you are open to it, it will. We are freer than we think we are. I'm going to be saying that a couple of times. Freedom in our relationships. Oh, man. Even if you're single, you're not really free. We are bound up by a basic belief that what you think about me is very important. I've read that book that says what you think about me is none of my business. It's a great book. Hard to do. We are really bound up a lot by shame. We're bound up a lot by a sense of wanting to be accepted, by wanting to be loved. We're like needy people walking around. Quite often, dependent upon how much you love me will depend upon my behavior. And that is tyranny. That's the tyranny of acceptance. That's the tyranny of having a lack of love. That's the tyranny that comes with not knowing our absolute oneness with God. Because if we did, none of those things would matter. And in relationships where we quite often take hostages instead of partners, there can be great loss of freedom. And the last one I really want to talk about today is freedom within ourselves. There's a little song I sing every Thursday morning. We gather all of our 95 preschool children in here, and we sing songs, and we tell stories and things, and they get to not be afraid of preachers, which is good. My favorite song I've taught to them, and it's their favorite song now, and I'm going to sing it for you. It comes from a great Chinese saying, and they love it, and it shows this truth. It goes like this. When there's light in the soul, there is beauty in the person. When there's beauty in the person, there is harmony within the home. When there's harmony within the home, there's order in the nation. When there's order in the nation, there is peace in the world. Peace in the world. I love that song. Oh, please. No. I didn't do it for you to clap. I did it for you to think about how important it is that it all starts here. When there's light in this soul, then the family will be better. Then the nation will be better. Then the world will be better. So if we want to talk about freedom from tyranny and that light of freedom, we need to talk about it starting here first. Become aware of the tyranny within. A lot of times we don't even know that we're living in fear. We just think we can't do things because we've never done them. We are very often making our past our potential, and our past is not our potential. What happened before is not the future. Whatever pain, whatever difficulties we experience, they are not the future, and we have to become aware of them. Course in Miracles says the first step towards freedom involves a sorting out of the false from the true. And everything that happened in the past is not part of this moment's reality. Do you understand? That's an incredible truth. And it comes to us in different moments and times. When I was young and in high school, we had to take PE. I know, that was that generation. And I did not like taking PE. First, I didn't like it because I was really, really skinny. You think I'm skinny now. I was really skinny then. And I was never chosen to be on any of the teams when they would take turns. I'll take him, I'll take him, I'll take him. When they came to me, they just stopped choosing. And I had to go run up and down the bleachers for exercise. It was like not a very encouraging thing. But the worst part was the locker room. They were snapping towels and saying bad words for this little Christian boy to hear. And it was just, they were naked. It was a horrible experience, especially the smell. I'll never forget that. So I grew up after that experience never going near a gym. You couldn't get me near one because that was my past experience. It was my truth that it was a horrible thing and I was not going to go. Until many years, a couple decades passed, and I realized that if I wanted to keep this body remotely functionable, I needed to go to a gym. So there was a gym near my house in Kansas City where I was living at the time, and I went there. It's Gold's Gym. And I went into the very friendly guy at the front desk, and I said, I need to start coming to the gym. He said, oh, no problem. I said, yeah, it's a problem. I said, I have gymnophobia. And I just chanced into one of the most friendly, understanding people in the universe. He said, oh, we'll take care of that. I'll take you around. I'll show you how all the machines work so you'll understand. I'll show you where everything is so you'll know and explain it all to you. So when you come, you'll really feel like you belong and you're a part of it. And I started to breathe again. And the next thing you know, I was able to go to the gym. And now when I'm living here, on a good week, I'll go 5 times a day. It's no problem. And I meet lots of friends there, and I'm as comfortable as I can be because my past was not my potential. The truth of what happened then was false now. And I lived in a different truth, and I began to live in a freedom from the tyranny of those past experiences. And that can happen to anybody with anything. But until we face it, until we're aware of the falsehood of what that is, and when we're aware of the truth that we're living in now, it's not going to happen. Second thing is we have to set goals. Because I have encountered, and I have been in my life, many people who have great ideas, but they're all out there in the end, like, oh, I want to be a rock star and sing at Lincoln Center. Okay, well, what's the steps in between that? Like learning how to sing? Maybe finding a band, getting a coach? No, the goal is there. A great Seneca Indian wise man said, our plans miscarry because they have no aim. When a man does not know what harbor he is making for, no wind is the right wind. When we don't really know where we're going, nothing is ever going to work. It's only going to work when we focus our attention on what we're going to achieve in this goal, and then the universe moves in ways beyond ourselves to make it happen. We need to enroll some help, like a friendly guy at the gym. Help me, I'm scared. We have to kind of lose our pride maybe in a little bit and get somebody who might be interested in helping us along the way. Benjamin Franklin had a recipe for sobriety. Very interesting. He wrote, he published his little newsletter back in those early days. And his recipe for sobriety was this. If you decide you want to stop drinking, you go around and you tell everyone in the village that you're stopping drinking. Now you're setting up this automatic guilt trip. You're setting up the finger wagging, setting up all those kind of things. And then if you do decide to drink, well, you practically have to move to another village. And that's difficult. So it was kind of a way that people could get sober. He thought it worked, and maybe it did. But it was about enrolling help and assistance. This great metaphysical philosopher Lena Horne said, it's not the load that breaks you down. It's the way you carry it. I'm often fond of saying, a burden shared is a burden halved, and a joy shared is a joy doubled. We don't have to go through all these things alone. We are truly one, and it's important to enlist the help of others. The last one is to take action. If we don't take action with things, nothing's ever going to happen. William Jennings Bryan said, destiny is not a matter of chance, it's a matter of choice. It's not a thing to be waited for. It is a thing to be achieved. I did a memorial service this past week for a 93-year-old woman. She was born in the Philippines in abject poverty, as is many people that are born in the Philippines, into a large family like many people in the Philippines are born. She did not want that for her life. She wanted something else. That in itself is not unusual, because anyone born in poverty, anyone born locked into a kind of a class system that exists there, you don't want to be there. But more important than that, she decided to take some action. She made some choices. And she got a job working as like an assistant secretary. Now remember, at this time, this was during World War II. So the Philippines had been occupied by the Spanish, then they were occupied by the Japanese, and now they were occupied by the Americans. So one had to be very flexible in your jobs and flexible who you were attending to. She was a secretary attached as an assistant secretary to a German man. He was one of the people who left Nazi Germany during World War II because he couldn't stand it. In fact, when he was in the Philippines, he sent money back to Germany to help free the Jews. He was a very noble man, a very wise man. When the war was over and it was time for him to return to Germany, he was in love. And he asked her to go with him. Big choices to make, because he'd been married before. And the priest told her, if you marry this man, you will be excommunicated. Her family said, if you marry this man and leave him and go off into a country where people don't even speak English and the whole world hates them, this will be a devastating blow to our family. If you leave him, your life will be ruined. And so she's faced with all these choices, all these amazing risks to have to take, and she went to Germany. When she got there, imagine her surprise to find out that the man she married was part of the royal family of Germany. He was a prince, and they lived in a castle. They traveled all over Europe together, an incredible luxury. She never, ever went back to the Philippines. And she never, ever let anyone call her by the name she had been known there. She had a variety of new names. She had stepped into a new way of being, but she did that because she had the choice to take action, and she did it, and it may cost a lot. She was excommunicated. She was lost from her family, but she built another one. She had 3 beautiful children, and they lived incredible lives of specialness, traveling all throughout Europe and eventually moving here to Hawaii. It's an amazing story, and when her family was telling me the story, I could not help but be absolutely stunned by the spiritual truths that she was demonstrating. You see, we will not create what we want in our lives until we are 2 things: ready to let go of the old and open our hands to the new. And a lot of times the reason we are not accepting all of the great good things that are coming to us is because we're busy holding on to the old stuff. And we can't do that. And she was willing to let go. She was willing to let go of her family, of her church, of everything she had ever known in her life. She took a risk and became a fairy tale. A real fairy tale. Freedom, it is our ultimate choice. It is the ultimate choice we have. No matter what the circumstances that we are in, we always have an opportunity for freedom. Viktor Frankl was one of those Jews that was in an internment camp in Dachau during the war. He had been a psychologist, and he had an ability to just understand people as they're going through their difficulties, and these people were going through extreme difficulties. As he came out of that experience and he survived, he wrote a book that sort of changed many things in the realm of psychology, but the one truth that really resonated with me was this: we spend too much time in life trying to be happy, trying to find happiness. And he said the people who survived are not the people who were looking for happiness. They were the people who found meaning in their lives. Because when you have meaning, you have a happiness that cannot be taken away. That truth came out of a horrible situation because he chose to survive. He chose to have meaning to his life. I've given you a card in your bulletin today, and it basically says this: I live in the freedom of my choice. You need to understand how powerless you may feel at any moment in time. It is your choice. It is always your choice. That is where your freedom and your power lies. I'm going to invite you to say this out loud with me. We're going to say it 3 times together. I live in the freedom of my choice. I live in the freedom of my choice. One more time. I live in the freedom of my choice. Does that feel good? You feel that power? That's you. That power is you and your choice. Will you close your eyes with me for just a moment, please? We also have an amazing choice to be in relationship with God. Whether we will or whether we won't, it's up to us. I believe that God truly just stands at the door and knocks, and we are the ones who decide whether to answer it or not. It is our choice. And of course, my recommendation is to open the door. Begin a relationship that will give your life meaning. I invite you to think about these things as we spend some time in the sacred and holy silence.